Controllers! I've never used them. But lately I found out that a lot of games have controller support. This includes Albion Online. And despite the controller support being in beta, it's actually really well polished. But it can be very confusing at first. So let me help you with that. Hi everybody, I'm Scrapped, and I bought this controller last year to play 3.5 hours of Elden Ring and get my ass kicked. But recently, I've been using it to play Albion, playing some dungeons, some faction warfare, and since I saw people in the last video commenting about how I didn't talk about the controller changes in the update, I started digging. And apparently, a lot of people play with controller, but there's little to no information about this topic. So today, I'm going to give you a guide with everything about the controller support in Albion Online, what each setting does, and some useful shortcuts that you can use while playing. So turn on your bootleg AliExpress USB controller, because this is the full controller guide for Albion Online. Let's start from the beginning. The keybinds. There are some keybinds that never change, and if you pay attention, you can see that the game tells you what each keybind does. The menu button opens up the inventory. The view button opens the map. If you press it again, it gives you the travel mode map. Press it again and it's gone. You move your character with the left stick. If you press the left stick, you're going to mount up. The right stick has two different uses, and we'll get into that later. But if you press the right stick, you're going to open the game menu. Here you can open everything, from the world map to the destiny board by just moving around the stick. The abilities. They are binded to specific keys. The first 3 ability slots are binding to X, Y, and B respectively. Your armor abilities on the other hand have a special bind, in order to avoid any misclicks. You have to use the left trigger and then press the ability key. The chest piece ability is Y, the head piece ability is X, and the boots ability is B. The directional pad is also binded to other abilities. The D-pad up uses the potion slot. The D-pad left uses the food slot. D-pad down opens up the chat. You can change the chat tab with the left trigger. D-pad right is used to inspect other players. And if you use left trigger and D-pad up at the same time, you will activate the overcharge ability. You also use the D-pad to move in your inventory. The action buttons are now used as the whip, inspect, and close button. The auto attack is binded to the A button, and the last setting that never changes is the bumpers. With the right bumper you can change between the enemy targets close by, and with left trigger and the right bumper at the same time you select the next party member. Now, of course, the video would be really simple if I just told you what the keybinds are. But there's a lot more about the controller support in this game, so let's go into the settings. The first and probably the most important setting of them all is the gamepad control scheme. Remember a minute ago when I said the right stick had 2 different uses? Well, this is that option. There are 2 ways to play Albion Online with a controller. If you pick the right stick target selection, you will use the right stick to select the enemies, and you will change between targets by moving the stick up and down. This is not the most used setting, because you can essentially do the same with the right bumper. And also, whenever you have to cast a skill shot ability, the cast will immediately go to the targeted enemy, which sounds good in theory, right? But what happens if you have another enemy on top of you? You have to hold down the ability button you want to cast and use the left stick to target the ability. This means you can't move the player while doing this. Now let's take a look at the other one. Right stick cursor means you literally get a mouse cursor that you can move around with the right stick, just like playing on a keyboard and mouse. With this, you can use the right trigger to select anything on the screen, which gives you a lot more freedom to do anything you want. Whenever you cast an ability, it's going to go wherever you have the cursor on the screen, just like when you play on PC. Now, maybe you don't like the quick cast on the abilities, and you actually like to see where you are selecting the skill shot to go. Well, for that, you have this next part of the settings, Virtual Cursor. Here you can change between the normal spellcast, which gives you this HUD to see where the ability is going to go. You can use Quick Cast on ability press that will instantly send the ability to wherever the cursor is on the screen. And you can also select the Quick Cast on button release, which is pretty self-explanatory. The ability will activate once you stop pressing the button, while also giving you this HUD while you have the button pressed. It's basically combining the first 2 options into one. You can also change the cursor sensitivity, and I recommend you change it, because the default sensitivity is pretty slow. The Allow Click Movement option allows you to move by clicking on the ground, just like when you play on PC. Hide Cursor when inactive does, well, exactly that, to reduce the clutter on the screen. UI, Move Cursor to Selection. This is a new one. What this one does is when you open the inventory or the bank, you have a selection arrow that you can move with the D-pad. But if you have your cursor activated, it's going to automatically move to whatever you are selecting. This is just a personal preference. You will see eventually what suits you the best. I have it turned off, just in case something happens while I am on my inventory. The cursor design, it's just that. A different design.
Oh, look at the class, look at the moves! Thank you!
And I said, controller? I hardly know it. Dynamic actions. This is an interesting setting that works very well on mobile, but on a controller, it's kinda weird. This is how it works. When enabled, you will be given the option to interact dynamically with the environment. That means if you are close to a resource, it will allow you to gather that resource with just pressing the action button, which is the right trigger by default. And that means you don't have to aim the cursor to the resource, you just have to stand close to it. And you can even choose from which resource tier is going to give you this dynamic option. So what stage then? Well, if you have the right stick cursor option enabled, you won't be able to use dynamic actions. Those two are not compatible and the cursor takes priority. So if you want dynamic actions, you need to use the right stick target selection mode. And then you can use the dynamic action as intended. But there's one small detail. How do you mount up? No, I mean it. How do you mount up? You can't select your mount. You can't go back to the cursor mode without opening the settings. You can enable cursor mode in the inventory, but it doesn't let you select the mount. In this case, you would have to summon the mount again each time you gather anything.
Oh! What the fuck?
So if you're gonna be using the cursor mode, then you can ignore this setting. Auto-targeting. This one is actually goated. This option auto-targets the ground spell and skill shots, and you can instantly change between targets with the right bumper without having to actually aim anything. It's literally an aimbot. You can choose if you want the right bumper target selection to prioritize players, mobs, or anything. And on top of that, it can give priority to the nearest target, the lowest health target, or just any target. That means that in a full-scale CVC, you can instantly target the player with the lowest health and kill them. Or maybe it's your ally and you want to heal them. Well, there's an option for that too, beneficial spells priority. All of this without having to aim anything. But if you don't want the auto-targeting of ground spells or skill shots, you can turn that off here. And finally, the dead zones. This setting changes how much you have to move the stick for the game to actually register the input. So with low dead zone percentage, moving the stick just a bit will move the character or the cursor. But with high dead zone percentage, you need to move the stick all the way to the side to actually move the character. I like it like this, only 10%. I think that's enough. Another thing is that you can customize your controller settings in the key binding section. There are a lot of empty bindings in here, so you can customize it as you see fit. Maybe you want to add the auto run feature to a controller keybind, or maybe you want a bind to stop all actions. You can do that here. Now, to finish this video, I'm going to give you some shortcuts that will prove useful when playing with a controller. We already talked about pressing the view button to open the local map, and to open the world map, you first open the menu and then select the world map. But if you press left trigger and the view button, you will automatically open the world map. That's faster, isn't it? If you hold the right bumper, it will let you change the targeted from enemies to all targets. When casting abilities, you can press the left bumper and the button of the ability you want to casting upon yourself instantly without having to aim the cursor at your character. By pressing left trigger and D-pad down, you can ping your position in the map to your party members. And finally, you. Yes, you. If you have any other tips or tricks about playing this game on a controller, leave it in the comments down below. Or anywhere at all for that matter. I'm being serious, there is no information about this on the internet. That's why I wanted to make this video. The only posts I could find were these 3 that I leave in the description. And check this one in particular. He goes in depth about the settings, what could be improved, and some things that I hope the devs would add into the game. And that's everything for today's video. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed it, or if you want to help me with the algorithm. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. Join the Discord server if you want to interact with the community. My name is Crabbed, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.